Good evening to everyone who's joining today, and thank you, Devesh, for the introduction as well. My name is Joy. I am the Associate Director of International Recruitment here at Center College. Center College is one of the next genius partner universities and colleges here in the U.S., and I'm very happy to be doing this presentation for all of you because I myself was an international student many years ago. So this is like, a full circle moment where I was working on my Common App application 10 years ago as an international student. So happy to be here. So today we have about, I believe, an hour for this workshop. So I will be walking you through the Common App. We have some goals to accomplish because it's always have to have goals. So let me try sharing my screen and then you tell me if it's working or not. Here we go. Can everybody see my screen? All right, amazing. So this presentation is going to take about an hour. There will be, at the end of today's sessions, there will be Q&A. So you're more than welcome to ask questions then. But my goal today is to help you figure out how to fill out the Common App application, what it is, and all of those things. So why don't we get started? So these are our goals for today. We're going to be figuring out what the Common App is, to learn how to complete the Common App application. That's one of the main goals for today. And I'm also here to help you learn how to get help and support for your admission application as you fill out the Common App, because there are different pieces to the application that you'll need help from various different individuals throughout your academic career. And the second to last thing is to be able to present your authentic and true self, because that is important in college admission process. We on the university and college side is always trying to learn more about who the students really are, and we want to see who you are as a person, as a student. So I'll be walking you through how you will be able to do that through the Common App. And last but not least is to enjoy the process, because as daunting as college admission process could be, it can also be fun. So those are our goals for today, and we'll go from there. So what is the Common App? So for those of you who are not familiar with the Common application, we call it the Common App for short, but it's called the Common Application. It is an online application for college admissions that's widely used by more than 1,000 colleges and universities around the world. Many of those will be here in the US. And it's an easy online tool for everybody where you can apply to multiple US colleges, multiple colleges and universities in one spot. So the goal is to complete the Common App application today, or at least walk you through how to complete the application so that you'll be ready to apply to a lot of the colleges and universities. So, and it's very easy to navigate. It's user-friendly, which you will see today. And it's a one-stop shop where you can gather everything that you need for your admission application, and you can just send it off to colleges. So, and it's free. Free is always good, right? So that's what the Common App is. And here are some starting tips. Every now and then you'll see a couple of memes and, funny stuff, because I like to use humor. For those of us who are Game of Thrones fans, it's brace yourself, college application season's coming, because it is coming. It just started. Common App opened on August 1st. So it's been 11 days since the Common Application opened for this admission cycle. But to start us off, it is important to gather all your information and all your materials for the Common Application, because filling out the Common App application, it can take time, especially when you don't have all of your materials together. And I'll show you a list of things that you will need before you start filling out the Common App application. So that's number one. It is important to use your personal email that you check often, and that you will be using for your college admission process in general. So typically, students will want to use the email address that they're going to use to communicate with colleges and universities. So that way, we're able to, in our systems, we're able to match you with the common email that you use, so that you won't have duplicate profiles in university systems if you use different emails. So if you don't have an appropriately named email address, I recommend that you make one, so that you can do your college applications and start the Common App. So that's number 2. The third tip is always to start early. It's never too early to start, and so don't wait until the last minute. There's a lot of work to be done, not just within the Common App, but within the Common App, there are a lot of different pieces that you need to pull together, whether it's getting recommendation letters from your teachers, your counselors. So it's always good to start early. And the last 2 things, be truthful and honest. I always say this to all of our applicants because there are thousands and thousands of students applying to colleges every year. And if you're being honest and truthful about who you are, it helps you stand out among the applicant pool. So it's always very important to be honest and be authentic self. So that's the one starting tip. And the last one is to complete all the sections. Like I said, Common App has a lot of different sections. There may be some section that doesn't apply to you, and we'll be walking through some of that today. But please make an effort to complete all those sections that are relevant to you, because it's important for us to know all the information that we need to know about you as we make our admission decision. So with all of that, those are the starting tips. I hope we all are ready. I know it's Friday evenings for all of you, but I am ready to start. So like I was saying earlier, you need to gather your application materials early on before you fill out the Common App. There's a list of things that you see on your screen that you have to gather before you start your Common App. And if you, for some reason, can write down everything or take a screenshot of it, they are on the Common App website as well. So feel free to reference the website. But some of the things that you will need before you start your Common App are copies of your high school transcript or any transcripts and academic records that you have for your secondary school and high school. Those will become very important when you fill out the education section of your Common App. The other things also include a list of extracurricular activities that you have done outside of classes, because those are important as well. You want to fill out things that you have done outside of classes, whether it's clubs and organizations or family responsibilities. Those are important as well. So make sure to sort of get a list. It's usually good to have a resume that lists out all of these things, so that when you're filling out your Common App and you are sitting in front of your resume, you just pop in some numbers, some information there. So it's an easy tool. Other than those 2 things, you'll also need your test scores and the dates from your college entrance exam. So these are standardized tests. Not every school will require a standardized test. So that's an important note. SATs, ACTs, TOEFL, IELTS, you name it. Some schools will require some of these tests, but not every school will require them. You are able to self-report these scores while you fill out the Common App, and I'll show you how that's done in a little bit. But of course, when a school is test optional, you're not required to submit them for admission consideration. So that's something to note. The last 2 things, parent and legal guardian information. So there will be a section about family or a legal guardian section where you'll fill out information about your immediate family members, your legal guardian, who you live with, all of those fun stuff. So it's pretty basic. It's mostly biographical information about your family. Last but not least, academic honors and commitments. So this is also similar to the top 3. So academic records from your schools, so transcripts, things that you have achieved. So if you have participated in Olympiads or math competitions, anything of that sort, you will also need those records. So these things are usually part of your resume. All right, so those are all imagine you have gathered all of those things and you're about to begin creating a Common App account, because that's where you start. So you would go to the Common App website, which is www.commonapp.org. And like I was saying earlier, use your personal email that you check often. That's something, an email address that you'll be using for your college application journey. And it's also important to use your legal name as it appears on your official documents, whether it's your ID, school transcripts, and because your name will, that's the legal name that you'll be using. So we want to make sure that our records are up to date. And that it's also important to review and accept privacy and communication preferences at the end of creating the account. And after you have done all of that, you would have created an account. And how do you go about that? How do you go about that? You go about that this way. So this is a PDF version of the Common App because we don't actually have access to the portal as a staff. But this is what it would look like once you have gone on to the Common App website. You'll have this page where you'll create your account. So email address, the email address that we just talked about, you retype it, put in the password. So pretty basic things. And it will also ask you which best describes you. So are you a student applying as a first-year student this cycle? Are you applying next cycle? Because Common App allows you to create an account even before you start applying for colleges this year. So if you're applying next year, you can still create a Common App account and start working on your college application materials, essentially. So that's what it is. And then, of course, this is where you put your legal name, so legal first or given name. I know it's always not clear cut what legal first names and last names are. So depending on what passport you have, what your ID says, this is what you would fill out. And if you have a different name that you want people to call you by, so for example, Joy is my nickname actually, but my family calls me Joy. My legal name is entirely different. So here I would fill out my legal name, which is Kunyaminta. And then if I want to share that another name that people call by, I would say yes, and then I would type in Joy. Last name, pretty self-explanatory. You would fill out what your last name is on your ID. Date of birth, please pay attention to format because in the United States, we use month and then date and then year. So that's something to note. They'll give you how to type up your date of birth and things like that. Phone number, pretty easy. You type in your phone number. And the rest, I think the important part here for creating the account is it will ask you a couple of privacy and communication preferences. So whether you're based in the EU, for most of you, it might not be the case. But if it applies to you, you check yes or no. And then Common App will also ask you how to address you by your first name or legal first name or your preferential first name. And then you check some of these boxes if you want Common App to share your information with colleges and universities, how they can communicate with you. So you check all these boxes, or if you don't check some of these boxes, that's fine. These are based on your preferences, but you do have to check this last box because it won't let you proceed if you don't check this last box. And after you've done all of that, you create an account and boom, you have a Common App account. So that's the first step in creating an account. And once you've created an account, you want to start adding colleges to your list. So once you have created an account, it will take you to a dashboard where you can add colleges to your list. You can do this throughout your whole admission cycle. And once you have added, you can also remove it. So there's flexibility in that. But you won't be able to remove a college after you have applied to that college. So that's the one thing, right? You're adding colleges, so you can always remove before you submit them. And the thing to note here is there are more than 4,000 colleges and universities in the US alone. So that's a lot of institutions. I think the Common App limits you to 20 schools. That may or may be changing every year, but typically they set a limit to 20, so you're able to add up to 20 schools. Back when I was applying to colleges, I applied to 9 schools. Now I'm hearing that students apply to more than 20, sometimes 30 schools. So pace yourself. It's important to make your college list, and that's a separate discussion, but it is important to pace yourself, make sure to not overwhelm yourself, because even though you're able to apply to a lot of colleges through Common App with a single, a Common App application, you're still required to apply separately for some of these specific colleges, and they'll have specific requirements. So it will take a lot of time. Be really mindful about how many colleges you're adding. So, but that's a personal preference. Research schools, so you're able to do research about what the schools are on the Common App, and I'll show you how to do that. And once you have added your college, individual colleges, you'll be able to request recommendations for those specific applications. You'll also be able to gather materials, upload materials on there. Your recommenders can upload recommendations for you on the Common App. So that's what we're looking at. And this is how you would add a college to your list. So once you have enter into your Common App account, you'll be taken into this dashboard looking thing, and under college search, you'll be able to type in the colleges that you're looking for. You can also put filters on whatever you are looking for. So you can be looking for state school, liberal arts colleges. There are different filters that you can play around with. But if you already know the kind of colleges or the name of the colleges that you're looking for, you can just type in the name. So for example, if you're looking for center, you just type in center, spelled the British way with TRE. Then you find the college, you add it, and then once you have added your college, it goes under your My Colleges tab. So that's where you'll be able to find the colleges that you have added. All right, so you've added colleges, but you still need to complete the Common App application of it. So you've only created an account, and there are different sections, which I mentioned earlier, that you need to fill out in your Common App. So these are some of the sections that you will have to fill out, and that goes to every colleges that you're applying to. So these are information about you that's going to every colleges, because they cover a lot of different things, whether it's about you as a student, your academic records, extracurricular activities that you're doing. So these are information that all colleges would want to see for their admission reviews. So we'll be going into each of these sections individually and talking about how to fill those out. So starting with profile, where can you find all of these? They're going to be under the Common App tab in the Common App application. So I know there's a lot of Common App in the sentence itself, but you have to complete all these sections before you're able to submit an application. So each section is actually pretty self-explanatory, but we'll be walking through some of that together. So profile. The Common App tab under the Common App, this is what I'm referring to. So once you click on it, it will show you all these sections that you need to fill out. So starting with the profile section, it will ask you information about your personal information. So let's go to that over here. We talk about here. So in the profile section, it will ask you, Mr., Miss, Dr., whatsoever, senior, junior. Have you ever used any other names? Yes or no. If you've used other names, you can put it there. Date of birth, as I mentioned, pay attention to the format. So that would be your basic, biographical information. And then if you go through some of these things, we also have like address. So you would fill out your address. If you have a different mailing address that's different from your permanent address, you can put those over here as well. And the important thing to note is, like I said, all these sections must be filled out. Once you have completed each section, there will be a green check mark to indicate that you have completed it. So if there is not a green check mark next to any of these sections, that's the section that you still need to complete. So pay attention to the green things. Okay, so profile, you fill out the address, your contact information as well. So these are pretty basic information that you fill out in a lot of other things as well. So I won't go into details about each one of them individually. It will also ask you your gender, sex, your pronouns, and anything that applies to you, and if you're able to check, you check it. If not, you can leave it as it is. There will often be an option to say yes or no. Sometimes there'll be others as well. So you can check off a lot of these things. And There will be a section about geography and nationality. So if your birth country is somewhere in South Asia, you put that there, where you're born, the state of where you're born, your age, and it will also ask you. So depending on what you picked here, if say your birth country is India, some of these options you won't see them. But if you pick, let's say, the US, it will have some other drop down that will identify what your status is in the US. So these things are pretty easy to go through. So it will be fairly quick to go through that section. Like I said, some of these drop down button won't be available if you have picked a non-US country. So for example, most international students will not have a social security number before they come to the US, so you won't have to worry about those things. But it probably won't show you that box if you don't check the United States. So, okay, so that's the profile section. We've covered all of these things, and like I said, you have to fill out most of the things that apply to you. Within the profile section, there's also a section about the Common App fee waiver. So the Common App fee waiver section is a section where you can request schools to waive the application fee. And not every school will have an application fee, so you might not have to worry about it. But if there are schools where it requires an application fee and you want to ask for an application fee waiver, this is the section where you would do it. So what would it look like? This is a Common App fee waiver section. And this list of things that you see, the bullet points, they are essentially conditions or eligibility criteria that you can meet if you are going to be asking for a fee waiver. If you meet any or more of these things, you can check yes, and you can ask for a fee waiver that way. And then there's only really two questions here. You Strive as a Common App partner, and they ask whether you would like to share your information with them so that they can help you with, navigating some of these admission requirements and things like that. And it's asking if you would like to have a Strive mentor. So if you would like to do it, yes. If you don't, no. So pretty simple. But this is where you would fill out the Common App application fee waiver. So far, so good. Thumbs up, thumbs down. All right, I see some thumbs up, so that's good. The next section that we'll be covering is the family information. So it's also pretty simple. It's biographical information about your family members or your legal guardians. It asks about your parents, your legal guardians, siblings. So essentially your immediate family members or people who you live with. Not every sections will apply, and every individual is different in terms of what their family structure looks like. So depending on how that applies to you, you can fill it out accordingly. Once again, always be honest, always be truthful, because there is no point in lying on this section or any section really. And so that's the tip over here, and we can look at what it looks like on the Common App. So family section, this was pre-filled out. So if you see like divorce and things like that, that obviously most of these things might not apply to you, but parents' marital status, you can say married, separated, divorced. There will be a drop-down menu, so you won't actually have to type them. A lot of the great thing about Common App is it gives you a lot of options in terms of your responses, so you don't really have to type in a lot of things. So that's what it is. If you have step parents, you can also, if you want to list your step parents, if that applies to you, you can check yes or no. If you have children, they ask you these kind of things. And then it will also ask you specific questions about your particular parent or your legal guardian. So they'll ask you what they do, their names, whether they have gone to college or not, what their employment status is, and things like that. So for example, this is for one of the parents. Typically, the Common App will also ask you if you want to list your parents' information, contact information, because colleges will sometimes want to send some communication to the parents or the legal guardians, because we we understand that parents are very much involved in your future, your college journey. So we want to make sure that we include them in the process. So that's why some of these information are being asked on the Common App. So let's see. I think most of these are self-explanatory, so I won't go through them, but they're pretty simple. If they apply to you, you just fill it out. And if you don't want to fill it out, that's also fine. So that's the family section. I am looking. So if you have siblings, you'll also be asked to fill out information about your siblings, whether or not they're in college and things like that. So that's the family information section. Education section is obviously one of the most important sections. So here, this is where you'll be filling out information about your secondary school, your high school, your high school and secondary school grades, things that you have done during your college, during your secondary school years, and future plans. So this is where you have your transcripts ready, your academic records ready with you, so that you can use those to fill out this section. And in a lot of these sections, you'll be self-reporting some of the scores and things like that. So it's good to have your documents ready for this section in particular. So what does it look like? This is what it looks like when you go on the Common App. You will type in your high school name. This is how you add like education. It will ask you for your date of entry. So when you started that school, it's always good to know exactly when you start. So this is where you would put these things. Is it a boarding school? It will ask you some information, some basic information about your school. And hopefully you'll know the answer to a lot of these questions because it is about your school. And it will also ask you if your progress. So if you have attended multiple different secondary schools or high schools, you have the option to add more than one. And it will ask you if you have graduated from that school or if you're still in that school. There are different status and different progress. So depending on where you are in your academic journey, you might be on a gap year because you have graduated, so you can take like graduated or things like that. And more of the same, pretty much. It asks you about your high school and graduation year and graduation date. So if you are on your gap year, you would have already known what your graduation date would be, or at least month. And here's, so some of these sections will also ask you about colleges and universities that you have attended. So if Common App is also good for transfer applicants, so some of these sections might not apply to you if you are just a high school graduate and have not gone to universities or colleges. But this is a section where you would also fill out, if you are applying as a transfer student, you will have some tabs that apply to only transfer students. So graduating class. So more about your school and your class in particular. It will ask you about your graduating class, your class rank. Now, depending on how your school functions, GPA scale and grading scales are a little different. So there will be options for you to choose from, depending on what your GPA scale is. In the US, most of the schools will use a GPA scale of 4. I know that in other countries that's different. So you'll have those options. You can also recalculate your GPA, and there are different online resources to be able to do that. But a lot of these information are self-reported. So of course, you'll also submit your transcript as part of your application. So we'll be able to see what you fill out over here and what is actually on your transcript. So once again, be truthful. So that's the academic section. I'm trying to see. So honors is if you have participated in an Olympiad or if you have won an academic award, you would fill out those sections as well. So there's a lot of filling out, which is why it's important to start early. But after all of this, it will also ask you for your information about your counselor. And depending on your school, you may or may not have guidance counselor, guidance teacher, college admission counselor at your school. So this section can be you can fill out information about someone who's helping you at your school with your college application, essentially. Sometimes it could be a community-based organization. So depending on what that situation is for you, that's the section that you would fill out, because later on we would also ask, we are always in contact with counselors, because if we have questions about you as a student or your application, we often ask counselors as well, whether it's to verify the transcript, whether it's actually true or not, and whether it's, so counselors also upload some of the materials for you. So for example, official transcripts and things like that. They'll also upload a recommendation letter for you. So we would need those information as well in this section. Future plans, pretty self-explanatory. What do you want to do after you graduate from college, things like that. So that is the education section. That is an important section, but it's pretty easy to fill it out as well. So testing, the next section is testing. Testing here is asking for any standardized tests that you may have taken. So these are tests like SAT, ACT, IELTS, TOEFL, Duolingo. So these are the things that you will fill out in this section. International applicants, such as yourself, can also self-report national leaving exams scores if you have them. So this is a section where you essentially fill out any external examinations that you have taken and that you have grades for. And what that section looks like, it looks like this. It's actually fairly simple, because it started off with like, have you taken these tests? If you have taken these tests, once again, some of our schools are test optional for at least SAT and ACT. So you might have to figure out whether we require it or not. If colleges require it, you would have to submit these test scores during the application. If they don't require it and you still want to submit, you can self-report your scores here as well. I will say that most universities and colleges in the US will require some form of English proficiency. So you can provide this, you can prove this through standardized tests like Duolingo, IELTS, TOEFL. So you would self-report your scores here in this section for those as well. And like I said, national leaving exams are also, you can fill those out here. And I have listed activities here because we're going to skip writing, because essay writing is an important part of the Common App application, but there will be someone else to walk you through the writing essay part of it. But I just want to make a note that there is the personal essay section here, but we'll go to activities next. Activities, these are your extracurricular activities that you do outside of your class, because students, you are a student, you are a person, you are not always studying. There are always things that you're doing outside of classes, and we want to celebrate those achievements. We want to know those things about you, whether you're interested in playing soccer or whether you are a big basketball fan and you go volunteer at a local community teaching young children how to play basketball, anything of that sort, they go in here. So extracurricular activities, so these are your club involvements, community service. So if you have done a lot of community service and community engagement, you would list out those things over here. And earlier I said family responsibilities are also important. If you have those, you can list those out as well. But like I said, you only fill out details for the things that applies to you. So not everyone's going to be taking care of a little brother or a little younger, because you might be an only child. So if you don't have those responsibilities, you don't need to list those. It's not a requirement. But colleges and universities, we love to see this section because we want to see applicants as a well-rounded student, not just someone who's really good at taking tests and getting good grades. So that's the activity sections, and what it looks like is, I have to go through. It might be on here. Okay, maybe not. Give me one quick second, because there's a lot to the Common App. We did testing, we did. Well, it seems like it's not on here. Maybe I may have deleted it, but it's fairly simple. I think it might be somewhere else over here. Nope. Okay. The activity section, it will, I remember, I have visual memory, so I can remember what it looks like. So I'm sorry about not having it on a slide, but in the activity section, it's like, I think most of you may have done some sort of resume workshop in the past, or you may already have a resume. The Common App section of activities is essentially like your resume, where you list out what the activity is, how long you've been doing it, when you started doing it. There will be a section that asks you to describe what those activities are. So details matter. We want to see what you have done. So it's not just as simple as listing what the activity is, because we look at the activity and we're like, okay, it says this thing, but what does it actually mean? So you can use the description section to talk about what you are actually doing during those in those clubs and organizations or in those activities. It will also ask you how many hours each week you're engaged in those activities and from what time period to what time period you're doing those things. So those are some of the details that you'll be asked, but it essentially looks like filling out your resume. So that's a good resource to have if you have done a resume. It's good to have your resume in front of you when you're filling out the activities section. So writing. So we talked about writing earlier. It's important. It's an important application material to showcase who you are as a person and how you present yourself in a true and authentic way. It's important to us because we're trying to get to know you when we're reviewing applications. So, and the personal essay is a way to do that. Not every school will require it, but it's generally recommended that you submit a personal essay, and the Common App essay is the essay that gets sent to all of the schools that you apply to. But you'll have the option to not send the personal essay if the school doesn't require it. There will also be an additional information section in the essay part of it, where it asks you to explain further about a community disruption. I think in the past couple of years, it's always about how COVID-19 had disrupted, if there was any, to your academic experience in high school and things like that. So you can use the additional piece of information there to write about anything that may have affected you during these years. Courses and grades. I believe this might be the last section before you end your essentially complete your Common App application. So courses and grades, not all schools require it. Once again, what it is it's actually fairly similar to the testing section, where it will ask you to fill out, your courses that you have taken during your high school years, your grades for it. And we won't be going through that because it's pretty similar to the previous section. The other piece to filling out the Common App is the recommendation section, and I'll walk you through the Common App part of it. But before we start, recommendations are important, and I think most of you are aware of this, that we want to know what your teachers, what your recommenders think about you as a student, as an individual person. It's usually written by someone who knows you really well, whether it's in the classroom or whether it's outside in the community. So typically, your counselor, if you have one, will write one, but you'll also ask one from either one of your teachers or one of your community members who knows you, one of your mentors. So typically colleges will require just one recommendation. Council recommendations a little different because they are writing more about your academic ability. So generally, you'll be sending two recommendations, one from counselor and one from an individual of your choice. The key here I highlighted it is we read them. We read a lot of applications. We read a lot of application essays, but we also read recommendation letters because it gives us a different perspective about the student from the lens of someone who knows you as a student and as an individual person. And we'll talk about how to go about requesting for recommendations and things like that. But on the Common App, your counselors and your recommenders can submit your recommendations directly, and they'll be able to figure out, but I'll show you how to request these recommendations through the Common App. Before you request any recommendation letters, you must complete the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, or in the US, we call it FERPA. It's essentially waiving your right to review these recommendation letters, and you have to complete this waiver before you request any recommendation. So this is what it would look like on your recommendations. Once you get to this page, so on the Common App, you'll notice that we have transitioned to My Colleges, because each individual college will require or will not require a recommendation. Typically they do, but the recommendation section will be under each individual college, and under each colleges, they'll have a section for recommendations and recommenders, and you're able to assign a different person for a different recommender for different schools. So this is what it would look like. For example, this we have here for Center College. When you're requesting a recommendation, this is what you would see, and you would complete the release authorization. So this is FERPA. What it would look like is you would acknowledge that you would be releasing all your records and recommendations to colleges that you're applying to. And here, this is where you pick whether you want to waive the right to review your recommendations and the documents that are being submitted by your recommenders and counselors, or you do not want to waive your right to review. So depending on what you choose, you can choose either. And then you have to check that you understand whether or not you have waived or not waive your selection above will not change once you have signed this document. So if you want to review your recommendation letters before your recommenders submit, you would choose like, I do not waive my right, but typically most students will waive the right to see the recommendations. And this is the first form that you would fill out before you request a recommendation. And once you have completed the FERPA release authorization, this is how you can use to ask for recommendations. So this is where you invite your recommenders. So once you click on it, it will take you to this page. This is what the FERPA looks like. Once you have clicked on it, it will take you to a page like this. It will ask you who you want to invite, and then you would fill out their contact information. Typically, you want to use the email address that they're using to submit materials and things like that. And then this is what you would click, and this is what you would see once you have click requests for recommendations. So as you can see here, you'll invite a recommender. You can submit multiple recommendation forms, but it's not necessary and it's not required unless specifically stated by the college. So that's one. Your counselor will also complete a school report. So this is your guidance counselor at your school who's helping you with your college application. They will, in addition to there will be a counselor recommendation letter that they write, but they will also complete a school report. So typically this is required, but if it's not possible for you to, because you don't have a high school counselor, this can be waived at some schools. So that's an important thing to note here. So we've done recommendations. We have completed most of the sections. The last thing that you will have to walk through before you submit an application is the additional college-specific requirements. So every college is different. I can't speak for all colleges, but typically they will require some kind of additional supplemental materials that they may be looking for in addition to your Common App. It can be in the form of an essay, resume. Most of them are optional, though it is recommended that you submit whatever it is that they may be asking for, as appropriate, of course. And they can be found, each of these specific requirements can be found in the individual college specific tab. So when you go to Center's page, you will see that we require why would you want to come to Center essay? Or, it can be different for another school. So you have to check out that section individually at your different schools. And there will be an opportunity for students to use a section to write about anything they want to add to their application in the additional information section. It's always good to know, good for us to learn more about you as a student that's not already on your application. So use it whenever you are being offered the opportunity to do so. And the last two things, they're always important, not just for college applications, but always ask for help when you need it. Common App, a website, it's a good resource to get tips, to figure out how to do certain things. But your teachers, your counselors, higher education reps like myself, we're here to help you. We're all great resources. So if there's anything that we can do to help, don't hesitate to reach out. We're always there to help students, and because we know that this is a long and tiring process. We want to make it easy and sometimes fun as well. So don't hesitate to reach out. And last but not least, before you submit anything, proofread everything and triple check every single thing before you submit any application, anything in general, because once you have submitted, if it's a minor mistake, that's okay. If it's something major that you want to change, it's not the end of the world if you have submitted something and you realize that, oh my God, I forgot to include the last paragraph of my essay. You can reach out to the admission counselor and let them know that that's not your complete essay, and you can always, follow up. But of course, it's always good to get everything right in the first place. So triple check everything, proofread everything. Another joke, if you're a fan of The Office, which is a popular American series, is my college ready for submission? Is my college application ready for application? False. Our college is ready to read my applications because you've done a good job. I think that's pretty much it. You submit your application. I think I can walk you through how to submit your application on the Common App. When you're ready to submit your application, you have to individually submit for each colleges. And this is what it would look like after you have completed everything. Common App will also tell you to review everything before you submit. So when you're ready to submit, they will ask you to review the PDF version of your application, your Common App application, and the college specific requirements that you have submitted. So you'll actually get a PDF. It shows like this, but you have to click open it. And it will show you exactly what it would look like when we get it. And if it's not up to what you are trying to send us, that's where you go make edits and changes. Some schools, like I said, will require an application fee, not always. So if there's an application fee, you pay for the application fee. And once you have done all of that and you're ready to submit, I have reviewed, you check this box. I have reviewed the PDF copy of my application, which is your admission application, essentially. Once you have clicked it, you have made the payment, you click continue, and then you check more boxes. If they apply to you, typically you'll be asked to check all of these boxes to confirm that you understand the things that you are agreeing to, and then you signed it, and then boom, you click submit, and then congratulations, you have applied to Center College or somewhere else. And that, I believe, is the end of my presentation. You click submit, and that's everything. And I've included a little bit of this. I know you may have a lot of questions. I already see in the chat there are a lot of conversations happening. So if you want to reach out to me, feel free to reach out to me. My information's over here. If you have general questions, you can reach out to this email. If you have specific questions about Center or the application process, I'm happy to talk to you. This is my email. I've also included a QR code over here. It has information about international students who are applying to Center and things like that. So that is all I have to say for today. Thank you so much.